This is CBC Here and Now.
Almost 10 years of my life I spent with hospitality departments in cruise ships.
The war in Ukraine has driven many people away from their homes, but Anna is optimistic about creating a new home for her and her family here in Newfoundland.
Because it needs to be told. The history of residential school needs to be told.
Taken from her home as a child. Tonight, we return to Sheshatshiu for more testimony from the Innu inquiry. Good evening and welcome to Here and Now. We begin with some business news. Irving Oil is making some changes that could affect its businesses here in this province. In a statement today, the company says it's doing a strategic review and considering a number of options over the next few months. That includes a full or partial sale or a new ownership structure. On its website, the company lists more than 65 gas stations in Newfoundland and Labrador, and Irving's refinery in New Brunswick is the largest in the country. A Memorial University business professor says the Irvings are likely looking to move away from oil and gas.
Great time to be owning gas stations for the next couple of years. According to the research, it is. More people are driving, but in the long term, probably not, because as we move to energy transitions, as we move to electrification, we move to all those sort of things that we hope, and moreover the government is regulating increasingly, it may not be a great time in the long term. This may be a good time to get out.
Well, staying with business news now, there's cautious optimism tonight that a pending sale of the fluorspar mine in St. Lawrence will bring renewed prosperity to the Burin Peninsula. Yesterday, a Supreme Court judge approved a plan to sell the insolvent mine to a new company, which plans to reopen the operation. The name of the company and the purchase price are being withheld for now, but we're told the deal could be formalized as early as Friday. The fluorspar deposit near St. Lawrence is described in the court proceedings as world-class, but the company operating the mine ran out of cash 15 months ago. At the time, Canada Fluorspar employed 280 people. The loss of so many jobs was a big economic blow. Earlier today, Here and Now's Terry Roberts spoke with a business owner in St. Lawrence about this latest chapter in the town's long connection to Fluorspar.
Yesterday we got some news out of Supreme Court where a judge approved a proposed deal to sell Canada Fluorspar to a new owner and to reactivate the mine. As you hear that, what's your initial reaction?
Initial was joy. Initial is joy. Just to have the economy there again and up and running and having people excited and contented with their lives and being productive and having an economy there.
Right. So how important, as a business operator in St. Lawrence, how important was Canada Fluorspar to your operation before it closed 15, 16 months ago?
Well, it did revitalize the community. Many people's moved home, and therefore there was monies being generated. Our business depends not only on tourism, but on our own local economy as well as contractors and other businesses frequenting St. Lawrence to visit the mines and to work there and what have you. And so therefore they usually come and have a meal at our place or stay, you know.
What does this news you heard yesterday out of court do for your thought process going forward?
Going forward, I have some concerns. It's just been so secretive. And again, I guess the goals of the incoming purchaser, as well as my concern for the not only the peoples of St. Lawrence, but the unsecured businesses that have lost thousands of dollars as well, because these are the people that also frequent our community, or maybe even be a part of our community.
What's the best case scenario going forward for you?
That it has a minimum life of 20 years there, fully operational.
lot of people watching that closely. Well, when Canada Fluorspar closed and went into bankruptcy protection last winter, it owed more than $140 million. The court heard yesterday that secured creditors will suffer substantial losses. As for unsecured creditors, which includes a long list of companies from this province, there is no chance of recovering a single cent. Well, in other news, a man who was missing in Holyrood has been found safe after he spent 2 nights in the woods. Police say the 76-year-old was found this morning after an extensive search of the Hawk Hills area. The man had been fishing with a family member Monday before getting separated by the fog. A chopper located him earlier today. He's said to be in good health.
Yeah, fog definitely has been the story over the last couple of days, that's for sure. If we take a look at what's going on right now out there, not a whole lot as far as that fog is concerned. Finally seeing some relief from that, but we do have lots of shower activity still for the northern peninsula and southeastern portions of Labrador as well. If I zoom out a little bit, down, there's that area of low pressure spinning all of that moisture, especially to the northern peninsula. But there is quite a bit of forest fire smoke in the atmosphere. And this here looks like cloud cover, but it's actually smoke. Seeing some of the worst air quality through parts of Ontario ever recorded, and then into New York as well. Seeing some of those pictures, absolutely incredible, just orange skies out there. This kind of giving you idea of what's happening. So all of those forest fires in Quebec are bringing that forest fire smoke further south, and will continue to do so as we head even through to the next couple of days as that area of low pressure continues to spin. So we're actually going to see some of that smoke here in Newfoundland and Labrador. I will talk all about that when I come back.
Thanks, Ashley. Well, the local service industry is hoping for a busy tourist season after the unpredictability of the pandemic. Staffing shortages have been a major struggle for many downtown businesses, but as Here and Now's Arlette Lazarenko reports, one hotel is thankful for its new slate of Ukrainian staff.
For some hotels in St. John's, staffing is still a big problem. Summer's a busy time and they need all hands on deck.
That's the case here at the Murray premises. Dawn Ring is the manager.
Well, after COVID, things did become, we did have some gaps in some of our staffing. It became difficult to hire. We just weren't getting a lot of resumes.
Through a job fair hosted by the Association for New Canadians, she found a solution: Ukrainian newcomers looking for work.
In a couple of days, I had hired a young man from there who was fantastic and is fantastic, is still with us. A couple weeks later, his mom arrived and we hired her as well, and then a couple of friends. So right now we have 5 different employees from the Ukraine.
Now she feels prepared for the summer season.
We don't have any shortage at all in our staffing, which is unusual even on a normal time. It's been really great to have full staff.
One of those Ukrainians is Anna Temnenko, who works at the front desk.
It's like a small family, you know, but very far away from home.
Temnenko arrived 2 months ago with her mother and 8-month-old son. She says it was important to find a job as soon as she landed.
All your life depends on the job, no? You have job, you have where to live, so already you can move. You can continue to move in your life.
She's still waiting for her husband to join the family in St. John's. In the meantime, she's watching from afar the ongoing chaos in what used to be her home.
I feel sadness for my country in general, and I feel like I'm watching movies sometimes, because nowadays such a situation, I think it's quite abnormal. But in another way, it's very natural feeling that it's a place where I'm supposed to be. In general, I like this country because here everybody can feel like at home, you know. Because different nationalities, different religions, so you can be yourself.
And with a decade of experience in the tourism industry, Temnenko is ready for the season ahead. Arlette Lazarenko, CBC News, St. John's.
Well, the province's Housing Corporation is requesting proposals for at least 850 new affordable housing units. The new homes will be developed through partnerships with the private and community housing sectors. They'll be for seniors and other vulnerable populations like Indigenous peoples and those experiencing homelessness. And the minister says there's a significant need.
For folks who are with disabilities, looking for appropriate and accessible housing. Very, very limited options. So we built that into this particular program. And certainly with the Indigenous communities, with certainly, I'll call it young and old seniors, because there's different needs. So we've built this to meet that varying need right here on the island and into Labrador.
Well, this week we've been following the inquiry into the treatment, experiences, and outcomes of Innu children in care. Many of those experiences happened decades ago, but those testifying in Sheshatshiu this week say the memory of that trauma is still fresh. Reporter Heidi Adder brings us the story of one survivor, but first, a warning: the details you're about to hear may be difficult for some.
Joanna Michelle was born in 1964. Her father was physically abusive to her and her mother. One day, two social workers came by her house in Sheshatshiu and took her to the Northwest River Dormitory, run by the International Grenfell Association.
They told me that we're going to take you to a better place. I was 8 years old, and I began to experience emotional, physical, sexual, psychological abuse.
Michelle lived there for 8 years.
I was very damaged. I felt that I was a nobody. That's what I was told by the workers. I felt that I was worthless. That I didn't have a purpose. And I began to think in my mind that I really deserve what I got.
As an adult, she had trouble with the law and turned to alcohol and drugs. But she is now sober for many years, relearned her culture, is a grandmother and great-grandmother. Michelle wants people to know that federal money as compensation isn't enough. Changes need to be made.
I'm proud to be Indigenous. I'm proud to be Innu. My brown skin. That's who I am. A damaged soul.
Community meetings will be continuing all week at the Sheshatshiu Youth Centre. Heidi Adder, CBC News, Sheshatshiu Innu First Nation.
Well, staying in Labrador, last week we told you about the annual issue of dust from the mines in Labrador West and what Takora Resources in Wabush is doing to mitigate the problem. The growing concern prompted the area's MHA, Jordan Brown, to raise the issue, and the mining companies are doing their best to calm the rising issue, they say. Now the province's environment minister is weighing in.
I'm not downplaying it by no stretch. It definitely is the proponent, and the proponent understands that as well. And they're working closely with us to assure that they're going to do everything they can, whether that be extra pumping trucks, irrigation systems for the tailings ponds, revegetation plan they've started earlier than they ever had before. Those are things that they're doing right now. And we're going to continue to try to find, and I know they're going to continue to try to find, through working with us, additional dust suppression measures that could help in that process. We're going to continue to work with the proponents up there, all of them, to try to find better solutions that will be at least communicated to the community early and start earlier, because of, it could be a drier winter, a drier spring, more windier spring, which in turn puts up that dust into the atmosphere. Nobody wants to have that happen. So we're going to continue to try to work with the proponents. I know they're interested in doing that. So any new technologies that can help with dust suppression, we're going to be always looking at. We'll be reaching out to the company to provide those, and I know they're looking at it as well.
Now to some COVID news. 3 more people have died from COVID-19. That's according to the latest updates to the province's regional and age data. Those deaths are all in the eastern region of the province. 13 more people are in hospital since the last update. One of those is in critical care. Well, the City of St. John's has announced the lineup for its Music at Concert series, held in Bannerman, Bowring and Harborside Parks. Musicians have played in the parks for more than 2 decades, and this summer, 16 acts will perform at the 3 different venues starting this weekend. Here's more from the city's news conference earlier today.
The sparrow sings a new song all across the nation. Been doing the Harborside Park for years now, and it's always been a wonderful event. They all sing it in the wintering grounds, Oklahoma, Arkansas.
For over 20 years, the City of St. John's has been hosting concerts in city parks during the summer season. These concerts, called our Music at Concert series, have become a staple of our summer here in St. John's. This year promises to be one of our best seasons, with 16 concerts being held in 3 venues: Bowring Park, Bannerman Park, and of course, Harborside Park, the anchor event in our series.
Nothing to do with how it's over now.
It's a great partnership that has served the city of St. John's very well over the last number of years, and certainly one that we're very proud of. We have many avenues for young performers, including our Young Folk at the Hall, where they come in kind of small, and of course our Neil Murray stage at the Folk Festival. But this particular series presents a great opportunity for these excellent young performers to perform in a professional and supportive environment to really shine.
A banner year for the East Coast Trail. More than 300 people came out to show their support in Pooch Cove despite the rain, drizzle, and fog. More on that very successful fundraiser just ahead.
Yeah, the sunshine fairly elusive over the last week or so. It does look like we will see the sun sometime this week. I'll break all that down for you coming up.
Oh, another gray day in St. John's, but at least we could kind of see out the window today. Not quite as foggy.
Yeah, we haven't been able to see the Health Science Center.
Across the street from the CBC building, it's like gone.
It's gone. But today it magically appeared, which was nice. So we're finally starting to see a little bit of relief from that fog. Also allowing temperatures to warm up a little bit, which is nice, finally reaching the double digits. Let's take a look at where we sat for most of the day across the province. Now, that 10 degrees in St. John's was really only reached about an hour or two ago, but we're still looking at those single digits along the coast. And warmest temperatures, 19 in Stephenville this afternoon, 18 in Daniels Harbor, and those temperatures still very much into the single digits across a good chunk of the Big Land. Now, what we have going on is area high pressure to the north, but this big area of low pressure spinning all of that moisture and easterly flow towards the Avalon, which is why we're seeing the dense fog, or saw the dense fog. Really all along the northeast coast is where we're seeing that fog. And this is generally going to continue. This pattern of this onshore flow is generally going to continue because this area of low pressure isn't moving anytime soon, unfortunately. But yeah, here's a live look outside. So fog monster just starting to creep back in right now, but we can definitely see a lot more than we have been able to. 10 degrees at the moment. The wind's calm, so that's nice as well. So a nice evening maybe to get out since it's been fairly wet. So nice evening to get out and enjoy that. We do have lots of showers though on the go through parts of central northern peninsula as well. Still seeing that moisture, and we'll continue to do so as we head through the overnight and even into tomorrow afternoon, as well as that stream of moisture continues. So rainfall warning still very much in place. And if we take a look at some of the numbers, rainfall amounts should be generally light over the next 24 to 36 hours. For most of the island, except along the northeast coast, and then for the northern peninsula. Like I said, if I zoom in a little bit here, 30 to 50 millimeters is certainly possible. And this is from tonight until Friday morning. So this is in addition to what's already happening. Now, I know there are some road washouts already, so just keep that in mind because you're expecting some more rain. Some pockets may even see 50 to 75 more millimeters of rain. Southeastern Labrador as well, you're going to pick up about 20 to 30 by the time Friday rolls around. So here's a look at that system. There's all that moisture I was talking about. And as we head through the night tonight, we'll likely see some more drizzle and even showers develop through parts of central all along the northeast coast and then into Labrador as well. Central and western Labrador will see those showers and or periods of rain right until we get into tomorrow morning. So temperatures will be generally sitting somewhere between 0 and about +5 across the Big Land. Not really moving a whole lot across the island either, 5 to about 8 degrees overnight tonight. Generally not a whole lot of wind to speak of, but towards the coast of Labrador you could see those winds northeasterlies somewhere between 20 to as much as 40 kilometers per hour. So that rain is going to continue tomorrow, heavy at times again for the northern peninsula. But take a look at what happens. We haven't seen this in a while. Some drier air moving in, which means we could and likely will see a break in the clouds as we head afternoon, literally lunchtime tomorrow, from the west coast through the interior and even the Avalon. We could see that break in the cloud cover. However, there is, it looks like, some pop-up storms that will develop as we head into late afternoon or early evening. And this means we could see the risk of some thunderstorms. They shouldn't be overly impressive, but still the risk of a few rumbles of thunder from that time frame. So around the supper hour. And also they may not develop where anybody lives, but that risk is certainly still there. So that won't be long-lived. They should dissipate by the time we get into the evening hours. But again, that rain certainly still possible, or still likely, I should say, for the northern peninsula as we head into the afternoon hours and even towards the morning. So temperatures tomorrow, because we're going to see a little bit of sunshine, should warm up to the teens. 16 is what I have in St. John's. Now, southerly flow means temperatures along the south coast will stay a bit cooler, so only around 9 degrees. As we head towards central 13 to 15, but towards the coast, much cooler, both coasts really. And then the west coast, you're looking at your temperatures between 11 and 17 degrees through the day, winds out of the northeast, which is why your temperatures for the northern peninsula and coastal Labrador will be cooler. So 4 to 6 degrees as your afternoon highs. And then we're looking at those temperatures warmest in the west at Lab City, looking at 13, still looking at those showers continuing, but northern Labrador, you're looking at your temperature around 10 degrees for Nate. Temperatures are on the way. Warmer temperatures are on the way. I'll get into that coming up.
Great. Thank you, Ashley. Well, the RDF certainly didn't dampen spirits or slow people down on the East Coast Trail. The Trail Association just raised more than $100,000 to go towards enhancing and protecting the hiking paths. Hundreds of people showed up in Pooch Cove over the weekend to show their support.
We're here today basically to celebrate the East Coast Trail, to celebrate International Trails Day, and basically to celebrate the end of a campaign to raise $103,000 for the association to reinvest into the trail. We broke through $100,000 last night at about 10:30 last night, and so it was exciting. We're thrilled. And to get the turnout of people today, we registered 506 people. And 316 people checked in today here at Pooch Cove and hiked the trail. And their spirits and their enthusiasm for the trail was not in any way dampened by the fog, the rain, and the drizzle. This is our 22nd year of running this fundraiser, and we started out probably initially maybe with 80 to 100 people, and it's grown basically to what it is today, which is basically 500 people registered and 316 coming out to attend. And so it's good. It's just showing that the word of the East Coast Trail and people's appreciation is growing, and the number of people from the community coming out to support it is significant. Most of the money will go back into the trail. We have a trail enhancement plan. These are basically where we take older trails that have been out there in service for 15 or 16 years, and we upgrade them to a current standard. Our trail maintenance program, in which basically we're doing routine maintenance and things along those lines, as well as any emergency maintenance that we have to do. And these are the things that we focus on in terms of the trail. And outside the trail is basically sort of investing in products and services that are going to help generate revenue for the trail. For instance, a product this year is that we're going to develop a series of 25 online guidebooks to support the trail, as well as an East Coast Trail app to help us deliver the trail guidebooks and our maps to people's mobile phones. And that we think will be a significant revenue generator for us starting in 2024.
We did see icebergs when we were here 6 years ago, but I hadn't got to see one that close up. And I think to see it in all of its magnificent beauty, it really took me back to that profound moment of kind of family history that we have.
That profound moment is when the Titanic struck an iceberg over a century ago. Her great uncle worked aboard the ship and lost his life that day. Coming up, wallpaper and pattern designer Kate Golding will talk about that family history and her decision to make the town of Bonavista her home. A designer influenced by Canadian nature and landscape has decided to uproot and relocate to beautiful Bonavista. But even before coming here, Kate Golding took inspiration from this province. The homes, the icebergs, the wildlife, it can all be found in her collection of Newfoundland wallpapers. Kate Golding joins me now from Bonavista. Thanks for being here, Kate.
Thank you so much for having me.
So you have a very interesting story to tell. So you're from England, you lived in Ontario for years. Can you start by telling us what drew you to this province and Bonavista in particular?
Absolutely. Well, I was actually here in Newfoundland and in Bonavista 6 years ago, and I fell in love with it then. And then I think, like many people, after the pandemic, my husband and I really took some time to think about what was important to us. Maybe decided that we were looking to prioritize different things and looking for different things in our life. And we have been thinking about this move to Newfoundland for about 18 months now, and took a trip back here last year for 6 weeks. And, I think the scenery, the great outdoors, it's absolutely spectacular. There is so much inspiration here. But I think more than anything, it's the people. It's the sense of community, the humanity. We just love the Newfoundland's culture and how soulful it is here. We've really fallen in love with it.
Well, it sounds like it's starting to feel like home. What is it like for you now, being surrounded by some of the same scenes that you capture in your designs?
It's really, really special. It feels so great. And I think that every day we're having a bit of a pinch me moment that we actually live here now. We don't have to go away again. But the plant life, the scenery, it is just wonderful. We feel so lucky to be here.
You recently put a post on Instagram that caught our eye. It was kind of a full circle moment, it seems, for you. You saw an iceberg off the coast of Upper Amherst Cove, and it connected you back to your own family history. Can you tell us about that and the story of your great uncle?
My great uncle, Charles Frederick Morgan, he was actually aboard the Titanic, and he lost his life when the Titanic hit an iceberg, and his body was never recovered. He was actually a part of the crew of the Titanic, and it was obviously a great sense of pride for the family that he was on the maiden voyage of this spectacular ship. And I think we did see icebergs when we were here 6 years ago, but I hadn't got to see one that close up. And I think to see it in all of its magnificent beauty, it really took me back to that profound moment of kind of family history that we have.
And your great uncle, he wrote a letter to your family talking about the ship. Can you read it out for us?
He wrote it on Titanic letterhead. And the letter was dated April the 11th, 1912, and it was marked as Queenstown, which is the last stop that the Titanic made before it set out across the Atlantic. Dear Mother, I received your letter. We have had nice sun so far, but have been terribly busy, but it will be easier when we settle down. There are only about 1,000 passengers, first, second, and third, which is not many for a ship like this, but she's simply magnificent. I would like Katie to see the bedrooms. They are a dream and bigger than those in an ordinary house. I had a letter from Harry LaPalace. Best love to everybody, Charlie. And then the heartbreaking thing is at the bottom of the letter, he writes, I'm due back in Southampton on the 27th of April, which of course he never did make it home again.
Mm-hmm. And in the letter, he mentions Katie, and that's your great-great-grandmother and your namesake, right?
Yeah, exactly. So my great-grandmother, I actually also inherited her ring, which I wear every day. And Charles actually gave her away on her wedding day. So she's somebody quite special to me and is a daily part of my life because I wear a piece of jewelry that belonged to her. And it's just so special that he was thinking about his sister and how elated she would have been to see the grandeur of the ship. And I think it's special because, you know, there's all of these stories in history. And of course, I never met him. Our paths never crossed. We were a part of a different world. But these stories, these are real people and real people's lives. And I think that's the connection that the letter makes. But also by sharing it, you know, I'm carrying on the legacy of his story and him being a part of our family. And I'm also so grateful for my own dad because it was him that did all the research about Charles and his life.
And as I mentioned, you've created an entire collection based on Newfoundland nature. You have wallpaper of icebergs and all kinds of different natural pieces of Newfoundland. Do you think that there are any more Newfoundland or Labrador-inspired designs in your future?
I think that's a definite yes. The inspiration here is absolutely endless, and I think it's a time right now that is restorative for me after such a big life move, but I almost can't help myself. I'm so excited to get stuck in and start creating new works around, inspired by my new surroundings.
Thank you so much for speaking with me.
Thank you so much. I'm so grateful. Thank you.
From St. John's, Newfoundland, he is a celebrated Canadian actor who has performed on the stages of Toronto and Stratford theaters. Currently starring in the role of Draco Malfoy in the record-breaking Toronto production of Harry Potter and the Cursed Child, please welcome Brad Hodder.
Yes, a St. John's man was on the mound at Monday night's Blue Jays game in Toronto, throwing the ceremonial first pitch, opting to wear the 22 jersey of former Jays ace Jimmy Key. Brad Hodder called the pitch one of the coolest things he's ever done. Well, here's a sweet story for you. To New Brunswick now, where an animal sanctuary is providing a peaceful place to live. Lily's Place takes in displaced animals, often ones with medical issues. Nancy the sheep and Rosie the lamb are among two of their sweetest and most interesting guests. Have a look.
So Nancy is a case of neglect. And Nancy's story is a difficult one, knowing it, because she was born on a farm, suffered a broken leg that was never treated, and the bottom part of that leg fell off. So it's a miracle that she's even alive, right, with no care, no antibiotics, nothing. And she had been walking on that stump for 3 years. The rescue that brought her in, Cedar Row Farm Sanctuary, noticed like she really could benefit from a prosthetic. So she went to Possibility, which is in Ontario, and got fitted for a prosthetic. And she's kind of in that break-in period of learning how to use her prosthetic, but she's getting along pretty well right now, and she seems much more comfortable walking, you know, with equal leg lengths.
We've both always been animal lovers and involved in dog rescue, and we just kind of saw the need for more safe housing for farm animals. And it just was a natural progression. Once we started with the chickens, it just kept growing and growing.
We started in Ontario and we moved a year later, less than a year later, to New Brunswick. We were looking for a place that didn't have very many farm sanctuaries. There's a lot in Ontario, and it seemed like there was a need here for more farm animal rescues.
This property was operating as a golf course for, I believe, over 30 years. For us, it was the perfect property because of all the cleared land, and it had a large storage building that would work good for our barn. It was an excellent opportunity to have a nice grass fields for the animals.
Rosie was a lamb born on a farm with no barn in New Brunswick, and she suffered frostbite as a very, young animal. So she has no ears, she has no back hooves, and when she came to us a little over a week ago, she was only walking on her front knees. And so the theory from the vet is that she has constricted tendons. And so we need to try and get those stretched out and then have her gain strength in her ankles, which she's never used, so she can get straightened out and strong enough to start walking on them. But the backs will need orthopedics or prosthetics or some sort of support because of the no hoof situation.
Typically we start around 8 in the morning. We come out, give everybody some hay and give them some feed in the morning, medicate anyone who needs medication. Right now, both Rosie and Nancy are getting Medicam every 2 days for anti-inflammatory. And then we do cleaning of all the stalls in the common area, clean out their water buckets, change all that. So that takes us a good 2 or 3 hours in the morning. And right now we're coming out mid-afternoon to do physiotherapy with Rosie for a little bit. And then after dinner, we're out again for another 2 or 3 hours. Just kind of cleaning up the daytime messes, getting everyone put away and ready for bed, and making sure they have hay for the night and that type of thing.
Hi. She's like a one-person duck, so she'll run from Tim. It's difficult. It is difficult. There's a lot of grief in this work. There's a lot of frustration at times. It's rewarding work, right? Because we know we're able to help and to be there in the most important times. especially with end-of-life care. In the fall and early winter, we had a lot of losses here, and it definitely felt like that kind of work at the time. Sometimes it feels like a nursery when there's a lot of babies, you know, so.
Obviously, we can't save every animal out there, but we would like to save as many as possible. And we cannot do this alone, so we really need the help of the community in the way of volunteers.
We have some privilege, and I feel like it's our responsibility to use it in a positive way.
The Bank of Canada has raised its key interest rate to 4.75%, up 25 basis points. It's the first time in 5 months that rates have been hiked. Experts had been expecting the move because the economy has been running hotter than expected. Inflation had been steadily declining since last summer, but rose to 4.4% in April, and that's far higher than the central bank's projected 2%. Well, there are more than 400 wildfires burning across the country, and close to 240 are deemed out of control. Emergency Preparedness Minister Bill Blair took stock of the unprecedented wildfire season so far.
There are 2,293 wildfires that have occurred in Canada. Approximately 3.8 million hectares have been burned.
Officials in Quebec say this wildfire season is the worst on record. 150 fires are burning, and the number of evacuees is expected to hit 15,000 by the end of the day. Fires remain active in neighboring Ontario and in the west, in BC and Alberta. And fires in Canada are sending smoke to cities south of the border as well, including Michigan, Illinois, New York, and Washington. And as that smoke drifts south, American officials are monitoring the situation closely. It was a focus of a White House media briefing today.
Our team here at the White House is in touch with the Government of Canada. We have already deployed over 600 U.S. firefighters and personnel, as well as equipment like water bombers to help Canada battle the fires. We also have been in close touch with state and local leaders, including in Michigan, Illinois, and New York.
Well, the smoke and smog caused by Canada's wildfires are causing health concerns at home and south of the border. There are hazy skies in Ontario, Quebec, and the northeastern U.S. as officials in both countries issue air quality warnings.
We would expect to see a short-term increase in, say, the rate of hospitalizations for respiratory outcomes, for cardiovascular outcomes. In the long term, there are fewer studies that have looked at the long-term health effects of wildfires because historically they've been sort of maybe not rare events, but not as regular as they're becoming.
Environment Canada has issued health alerts for southern Ontario and Quebec, telling people to limit outdoor activities and stay inside. Complaints include itchy eyes, breathing problems, and a smoky odor. The advisories could continue tomorrow. CBC Radio's The Signal took the show on the road today to Greens Pond, an island in the Bonavista North area of the province. Adam Walsh hosted the show from the town hall and was talking about history preservation with some local residents as well as the operators of Black Cat Cemetery Preservation. Robin Lacey and Ian Petty are archaeologists who have been restoring old headstones and cemeteries around the province. And this week, they're working in Greens Pond and spoke with Adam about what it's like to learn the history behind the names on the headstones.
It goes from something completely anonymous to something that has all this ties to the community that you're in. And then when you're working with the Heritage Society, they can take that information that to us, we don't know anything about that person, and they can find all those connections and actually like makes that space mean a little bit more.
It's like walking into, say, a library. You've got this question in mind or the notion of a question, but you don't quite know where to go to even get the answer, let alone what the answer might be. And then all of a sudden, with the reveal, you're presented with exactly the right book that you need. You've got the wealth of information from the person's name, sometimes occupation, the dates they were around for, and then with that name, you've got the familial connections, and you can just kind of extrapolate out from there. It's
sometimes the marriage dates as well. We saw a stone yesterday that said when a couple had been married, and we thought that was really lovely.
Not great weather to be out in graveyards restoring headstones. I know that Adam had to move the show into the town hall because it was so nasty outside there today.
Yeah, there's some improvement in the forecast though.
Great.
So that's good news. Let's just jump right into it because everybody probably wants to know that. We are going to continue to see that northerly flow though, the onshore flow for the northeast coast. So still looking at the chances of some showers for Friday, at least the first half of the day for the northern peninsula through the west coast and even parts of central. Coastal areas of Labrador will see that as well. So a generally gray day for the most part. Temperatures are starting to warm up though. So talking about high teens, 17 to 19 degrees through central towards the west coast and just barely into the teens though for the Avalon. Still nicer than it has been for the past couple of days. Going to hang on to the single digits for the northern peninsula and then starting to warm up as well for parts of Labrador. So 16 in Happy Valley Goose Bay, same thing for Lab City and a temperature around 12 degrees for Nain. Now, as we head into Saturday, we look towards the weekend, not quite as rainy as it was last weekend. We may see a few breaks in the cloud cover, but it will be generally cloudy with the chance of some showers still lingering pretty much across the board. Best chance of seeing the sun, though, will be for coastal Labrador, especially as we get into the afternoon hours. Happy Valley Goose Bay, even Lab City, 17, 18 degrees. So cooler, though, in that onshore flow. Again, 9 degrees for central and the west, central and the eastern portion of the island, and then into the double digits as you head towards the Corner Brook and even Port aux Basques around 17 degrees for your Saturday. So the long range forecast still looking gray. Like I said, maybe a few peaks of sun on Saturday, but overall gray skies. 12 by the time we get into Sunday, and Monday will hover around 9 degrees through the day. And then for central Newfoundland, you're looking at a nice warm up by the time we get into the beginning of next week. This looks like it will be the trend, just a matter of when the skies clear out for the rest of the island. But for western Newfoundland, you're looking at about 15 degrees to start next week, but again, a rainy weekend. And then for eastern Labrador, a nice stretch of weather there for you, 16 to 20 degrees by the time we get into Monday, a little bit warmer even. For western Labrador, as your temperatures will hover around 23. Speaking of fog, this is a great shot to show how clear and foggy it was. This was in Clarenville. Daryl said it's the thickest fog he's ever seen before. Certainly. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. If you have any to share with us, best place to send them is to nlphotos@cbc.ca.
Love the guitar hanging up outside the label there is the banner is covering it there, but great shot. Thank you very much, Daryl.
Very nice. Thank you.
Well, that's it for us. Thank you so much for joining us.
Good night.